The Dallas Mavericks, a team we have talked about being built around Luka Doncic for years, enters a new phase. Let's see how it lands for fantasy. Mate, I know you're not a huge Instagrammer, but when we talk about the Dallas Mavericks, they are probably my most Instagram team. I tell you what, you've got Megan the Stallion and Clay Thompson fishing, finding their vibes. Mate, I'm just excited to talk for 20 minutes about Megan the Stallion. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, all the fantasy, Instagram and social media stuff that I see is all of the ex-girlfriend, Luka Doncic. So everything I see at the moment is the weight that he's lost and how good he's looking, and I'm sure he's not upset that all those images are ending up on the internet and going straight back into the locker room at Dallas. So yeah, I know we're not here to talk about him, but in a way we are because the gaps that he leaves behind have to be filled by others, and they've got a new man in Cooper Flagg in town to do the job that he did, be the
They
face.
do. I've always been known for derailing a podcast, but on Saturday night, I watched the 2023 remake of White Man Can't Jump. So I'm sitting there watching it. Anyway, the whatever Jack Harlow's character is named, it's not Woody Harrelson in this one, or Wesley Snipes. He was a good one in the original. And I'm looking at his girlfriend in this movie, and I'm IMDbing her, I'm Rotten Tomatoing her. I'm like, I've seen her before. Turns out she just dated Clay Thompson for 2 years, between 2021 and 2023 or something. And I just saw her on his Instagram all the time. So that took me about 2 hours to find out. But I'm sure you were
He's
doing
such a
fantasy basketball research. I was just
100%. It wasn't
stalking
sleeping.
him. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
So
like you see the guy sitting in his little like cute sailor's hat, and he's got his dog, and they people just melt for it. Like I obviously don't see the appeal. It's not nothing that I'm terribly interested in, but he's got them flocking. So good on
yeah,
him.
I
Go
mean,
play, go.
if they're into the 140th draft pick on Mattrix Ball Logic draft board, then by all means go ahead. But mate, they finished third in the Southwest Division last year, and they were 39-43. There was injuries, there was trades, there was eventually the number one draft pick, which they had like a very low percentage of getting. I don't really want to touch on that too much, but where do you see them finishing this year?
A lot further down, just because they don't have Kyrie Irving for most of the season, potentially the entire season. I guess that's a big point we need to make on today's show is that he'll be the spectre looming over the team. Is he going to come back? Isn't he going to come back? And I'm sure in a few months, the other side of the new year, we'll be considering whether he's someone that we start to think about picking up, or whether it's too late in the warm up to get him back on the court is probably not going to be helpful. But yeah, massive gap left behind by him. They don't really have a true point guard, but they're going to try and make do with D'Angelo Russell, who's obviously going to come back into some value. You and I just chatting about the fact that he's obviously got history, hopefully good history with AD. So at least he's going to be able to slot in. They know how each other play, and yeah, obviously it's going to bump him from a guy that we were basically going to ignore in fantasy to someone who, we're probably taking with our second last pick.
I also think there's always a bit of value in D'Angelo Russell because people just don't like him. When he was with the
Yeah.
Lakers, he was the rat. When he was at Brooklyn, he was an all star. But like I heard people saying that he was one of the worst all stars ever. I like D'Lo because I've always seemed to be able to find value in him. Um, that first season coming back with the Lakers, he was better than Austin Reeves, if you wanted to put that into perspective. But when you look at the outs being Spencer Dinwiddie, and I'm probably going to draw a line through Kyrie Irving's season as well, and ins D'Angelo Russell, we are created with a lot of opportunity. Just on while we're talking about the guards, which I think that's really good. So ACL is generally about 12 months. Um, he injured his ACL or tore his ACL on the 3rd of March. Now, Kyrie's never been a quick healer. He's never been a guy that comes back ahead of schedule. And even if he does come back, say in February, I don't think we're going to see the same Kyrie. I think we're going to see him ramping up. I originally doing my draft board sort of when you first do a draft board, I was like, look, let's have him about the 100. Let's stash him in IR. But looking at this timeline, looking at ACLs, looking at how long Kyrie Irving has taken to come back from other injuries, I think that we're just going to be drawing a line straight through Kyrie Irving this year for fantasy. And if you are willing to draft him, I think it's a mistake and you should go elsewhere.
I think it's going to be one of those things like we just talked a little bit about Garland, obviously a different situation because we only have to wait 4, 5, 6 weeks for him to come back. Unlike Kyrie, who you're going to be waiting for the majority of the season to even get back on the floor, let alone come back to full strength. But he's not a young man anymore. I think one of the things with Kyrie too is like I'm looking at his averages here. He played 36 minutes last season. That's a lot of minutes in that body. That's also a lot of minutes to fill this season. But over he played bang on the head. He played 50 games last season before injury, and his average over the last 5 years is 50 games as well. So, when it's an 82 game season, even if he was at full strength, you wouldn't be picking him knowing that he's going to be playing much more than that 50. Like you look at those numbers and they're a little bit frightening.
Yeah, agreed. And he was the 18th best player last year. So look, wheels up for D'Lo for me. I'm trying to look at his ADP. I think it was in the early hundreds. I've got him probably finishing at about the 70th best player this year. Whereas I think that he's 99th ADP of 111. And 99th because of course we've added some difference. So I think that there's about 30 spots of value there for D'Lo. And if you're fading point guard early on, or you just don't happen to get one of these guys, I think a couple of guys you could chase with upside are Peyton Pritchard and D'Angelo Russell, as opposed to some of the guys like Quickly, which I think he sort of showed his hand in the last couple years. So yeah, I'm just when doing your draft boards and picking where you want to pick people, I think if you're fading point guard, Pritchard and D'Lo will get you through some really tight spots this year.
I don't know if you're a believer in you've got to show out when you know that you're not sure how your next hot meal is going to be coming your way. But D'Angelo Russell's definitely got that rocket up his ass this year as well. Like he's got to play hard if he wants a contract after this contract. So we know he's not going to be doing things in halves. He's going to be taking advantage of every minute that he's out there on the court. That's for sure.
Yep. I mean, if this contract doesn't work out, he's the next import for the Brisbane Bullets.
Yep. Yep.
The shooting guard beside, I think Klay Thompson starts. He's got a certain aura about him that we've mentioned earlier. He's an exciting player for the Dallas Mavericks. The 156th ranked player last year, I won't be touching him at all for fantasy. I think that he will be held by some of your more casual fantasy basketball players that you might have in your competitions. He'll be held. And yeah, look, he's going to have some good games, but I cannot see myself drafting him in any league.
Yeah, and I hope that as the season goes on, he gets supplanted a little bit by Max Christie because I feel like Christie's a guy who's got some good fantasy potential that is going to be pretty heavily capped by the fact that he's going to be taking, bench minutes behind Klay Thompson. He played. How was Klay able to stay on the court last year? Did he get some good games in? He played
Klay
72
played
games.
72 games, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So like that wasn't a problem, which is probably a shame for someone like Max Christie, who's going to play second fiddle. But yeah, if you're a guard and you can do guard things, the world's your oyster at the moment on the Dallas Mavericks because it's the other end of the roster that things get real tight.
Yeah, it's probably more black booking Max Christie and Dante Exum for me. Shout out to Baseline Jumper, my NBL show. The part owner of the Southeast Melbourne Phoenix, and just somebody we've followed being Australians from the number 3 pick when the guy was a kid. He's still pretty young. He's still only in his early to mid 20s, and just a guy that I think, given the opportunity, and he was given the opportunity at times, Dallas obviously wanted to bring him back. I think could even get more minutes than Max Christie at times. I don't think Dante
Yep.
sort of come into the league as a point guard. I think he's more of a 2-3 with the way that he's built. And look, honestly, I really see Clay as probably the 3, and they play Cooper Flagg at the 2, despite Cooper Flagg's size. And I suppose there's 2 guys in this lineup that I would consider guns, and that's Cooper Flagg and Anthony Davis. And Cooper Flagg is going to be drafted in every league, and there's going to be a lot of hype around him, isn't there?
Yeah, I think the both of us in conversations feel like we're going to live outside the hype, and we're not going to in any of the competitions that we play in this year probably get a sniff at Flagg, only because he's going to go about 20 picks higher than what either you or I are willing to take him. He's going to get some great experience this year, and he's going to get to play as a guard more than what he probably will in the rest of his career, which will set him up for good things. But yeah, I've just seen him go in the 30s. By the time the dust has settled a little bit, I'd say that's probably where a lot of people will be picking him. I, it's probably the 50s for me, and maybe I'll live to regret that. But yeah, he is a rookie at the end of the day. Like, he's still going to have his ups and downs as he settles into his team. Yeah, I don't know. That's just too high for me. I don't like that. It doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point in which it can derail your season. And like you're saying, like the 30s, he's actually 80. His actual ADP on ESPN is 23, which is
Right.
well outside the realms of what I could do. I think I'm reaching at 40, but only because I consider myself quite good at working out the punt strategy. So, like, I expect his field goal percentage to be down. I expect his free throw percentage to be relatively ordinary. And I expect, if you're playing in one of those leagues, with the 3-point percentage to be pretty shit. But let's look at Summer League, which I don't really want to go into his Duke stats too much. But 20 points per game, 1.5 threes, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.5 steals, a block, and 1.5 turnovers. I think we'll see his turnovers pop up. I do think that he is a better 3-point percentage shooter than he showed in those first couple games. Shot at 21% and shot at nearly 40% for college. I probably expect there to be a bit better spacing with somebody like Anthony Davis on the floor, as opposed to, I can't even remember who played for the Dallas Mavericks. There was some some lower level guys
Absolute
playing
squeezes.
in summer league. Yeah, so yeah, Anthony Davis in there is going to create some space for him. I think D'Angelo Russell is a serviceable point guard, and especially I think they got him for good value. And having 30 or 40 million or whatever you're paying Kyrie on the bench is going to be a bit of a downer for this one. But I do expect Cooper Flagg to have a good year in terms of fantasy rookies. I expect him probably to finish in that sort of 50 to 70 mark, probably overdrafted at 20, 30, 40. But yeah, I won't. I don't think I'll get him at 40 where I've got him. Whereas I think I could build around him and make do, just because I've done this for a fair while now.
Yeah, and I think as well with Cooper is, if you can sit on him for a while, if you obviously, if you're playing in a league where you're going to be able to hold him for more than the season, he's an absolute stud, and you're going to have to get him now.
Oh,
But I feel like He's another one of those guys. He's probably an overglorified. Well, probably not even overglorified because that doesn't justify it. He probably is justified as a Swiss Army knife. Like he can get defensive numbers, he can score, he can get assists, and he's probably going to get more than what he thought he was going to get. The way that this team shaked out, as you said, he's probably going to be playing the two on some nights. He's playing the two, not playing. He's positioned at the four, which is probably where he should be playing, but then AD doesn't want to play his position at the five, and it just kind of shuffles everything around. But yeah, he can do a little bit of everything, and that makes him an enticing pickup, especially if you are a person who's not a big punt person, because you know you're getting someone like him who's going to tick a little bit of every box. And that's definitely enticing to people who aren't really leading into any specific punt.
Yeah, I'm just borderline scared that he does become that secondary ball handler. I've heard Jason Kidd, the coach, just say, sort of like throw that out there, like, oh, Cooper Flagg could be a ball handler and everything. I wonder if they're trying to shove a square peg through a round hole there a little bit, whereas he should be, again, a great fit beside Kyrie Irving. But yeah, if he is asked to do some secondary ball handling, I wonder if he'll actually take away from his game a little bit.
Yeah. I worry about that as well. But it's still exciting. I don't think I'll be able to participate this year with Cooper Flagg. I don't think I'm going to have him in any team, but I'll be certainly on tenterhooks waiting to see what he can do.
Mate, Anthony Davis. Look, let's just get into nitty gritty of it. Where do you have him on your draft board? Our draft board is through our Patreon. The link is below. We've got a WhatsApp where we answer all your questions, and we've got articles coming out. Honestly, nearly every day in the preseason. Where do you have Anthony Davis?
Well, I'm at loggerheads at the moment because I can't really decide whether I want him or Luca after that proper top three, of Shea and Wemby and Jokic. I think they're both going to be valuable. I always worry about Anthony Davis's body, but I have a feeling that a lot of that has been whipped up by the media. There's obviously a lot more focus on him and how much he can stay on the court compared to a lot of other players who spend a lot less time on the court than what he does. Um, I love the blocks from his position. The threes have kind of faded away a little bit, which is a shame because that was a great part of his fantasy game, especially if you wanted to pick up a guy early on in the piece who could also get your blocks and other things, but not absolutely damage your 3-point looks like a lot of these traditional bigs, e.g. Derek Lively, who I'm sure we're going to talk about soon. But yeah, he's in that top five discussion for me. And I think this year he's going to be able to get to do a lot, being 100% the number one option. Without Kyrie there, there's no debate about what he's going to be able to do on this team and what this team need from him.
Yeah, I've got him as at fifth. Maybe I'm buying into the hype with Luka Doncic again, trusting my ability to punt around his free throw percentage and everything like that. I don't think you need to punt if you get Anthony Davis. Look, his turnovers are probably a little bit high for a guard, for a forward, but I'm not scared of that. When it comes to Anthony Davis, his blocks are elite. I don't play too much in the realms of I think he's going to be injured or anything like that. If he's the fifth best player, I'm going to be drafting him as the fifth best player. And for points, rebounds, blocks, and that field goal percentage, he is the fifth best player. And not having to punt, like I've got him in the realms of Luca, in the realms of Giannis. Who else do I have there at 7? Like Trae Young, blokes like that, which I think there's a big fall off to Anthony Davis after that. I am going to be drafting with confidence if I have the fifth pick.
I think as well, like we might see some more assists from him. We're not going to get Sabonis or Jokic level assists, but he's going to have the ball in his hand a lot more often. And teams are going to be double teaming him. He's going to have to look to kick, and he's going to have to find open players because they're going to be out there. And I think maybe that might be something that we can see an extra 2 to 3 assists a game for him, which would be awesome. Like that'd be great for his value, especially as the threes continue to dip off, it's good if something else in his game can kind of grow, especially at the age that he is and the player that he is. But yeah, he's kind of sitting in that fourth spot, in the power forward spot, which is I guess putting a huge cap on the likes of PJ Washington. It's going to hurt. What's his name? Najee Marshall as well. Yeah, and then Gafford obviously is another person who's probably hurting a lot. They've got this absolute plethora of big men who we know can be fantasy studs, but we have to caution people for this upcoming season because a lot of these guys just aren't going to get the time on court that they got last year. And if you're drafting based off where these players ended last season, you're going to be sorely disappointed this season.
So, what listeners might not have realised is we've been going through the positions and then we're landing at 5. So we've got D'Lo. We expect Klay Thompson and Cooper Flagg to be in there. Shooting guard, small forward, whatever. They're going to be guards, forwards. We've got Anthony Davis at the 4 because, let's face it, this is his team and that's where he wants to play. Then you've got PJ Washington, Derek Lively, and Daniel Gafford in there probably fighting for positions. If Jason Kidd squeezes his nuts and makes Anthony Davis play the center, I think that PJ Washington is the guy to slot in at power forward. I don't think that there's a world where Dwight Powell gets any meaningful minutes this year, despite being a bit of a Dallas legend. And then you've got Lively and Gafford. I think Derek Lively gets the spot. I think it's a better fit. I think that you could see lobs from Flagg, from Klay Thompson, from D'Lo, all guys that can pass, even lobs from Anthony Davis, picking it up in the high post and hitting Lively with those lobs. And then I expect Daniel Gafford to come in with the second unit. Derek Lively obviously being the younger option. Daniel Gafford for me is a better fantasy player, but when I put on my NBA goggles, I just can't see a world where he is the best starter or fit with the team the way that I expect it to land.
Yeah, I can't stop thinking about Gafford's absolute freakish field goal percentage. What did he go? How many games was it where he played without a miss? It was pretty impressive for a while there. And obviously that has skewed his data and where he actually ended up. So again, casual fans who see him sitting, probably 30, 40 points higher, positions higher than where he probably should be drafted. Um, Derek Lively, I have a feeling he's not in the best of ways as well. As he potentially not going to be starting the season with injury or recovery from injury as well? I'm not too sure. That's something that probably needs to be looked into as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I see Derek Lively at the 5, AD, even though he should be at the 5, at the 4. And then that just further pushes down Cooper Flagg. I'd love to see a lineup, and I'm sure we'll get to see it with AD at the 5, Cooper at the 3. But they just don't have the guard depth really to be able to do that very
So
often.
So Lively had foot surgery, but is expected to be back for the start of training camp in September. So
Okay, all
yeah,
right.
should be all good. And yeah, I just think Lively's the better fit. Maybe a late round flyer, maybe 120, 130th. You could take him. Daniel Gafford, I'm putting a line through him because I'm just leaving him for other casuals. And PJ Washington was a guy that when I was punting boards, really like to get him because he had that power forward center duel when he played for Charlotte. But I just don't see the minutes him playing basically Anthony Davis's backup now. And they're paying him a fair bit of money to do that. But I do think that the second Anthony Davis goes down, that PJ Washington starts to pop into value as well. Bit of a weird team because Anthony Davis probably will be injured at some stage, even though I don't like to draft on that. That's the point that I start targeting your PJ Washingtons. Honestly, your Derek Lively's, your Gaffords. I just need one of these 4 to drop out for me to be high on one of
Yes.
the lower end guys, or even take them off waivers or anything like that. To be honest.
Yeah, PJ Washington's got a bit of the old what's his name about him, Bobby Portis's, where when he gets an opportunity to start, when one of the key guys goes down, He can actually do quite a bit, and he's a bit of a darling on the team. And then when everyone else is healthy, he just falls back into the shadows. And PJ Washington, probably because of his stellar year last year, is probably going to be one of the players who falls the furthest when all's said and done. And we have a look where he ends up at the end of this season just because of lack of opportunity at the position that he plays.
Yeah, man, I agree. It's not often we always agree, but that was pretty good this episode, to be honest. You and I
Yeah.
obviously have very different strategies, very different philosophies when it comes to fantasy. That's why I like podcasting with you, and honestly, calling you on the way to work to talk shit about fantasy most mornings during the season. So about time we wrap this up. We will just be going through the teams at this stage. We did a mock draft. Spoiler alert, I won it. Again, I'm just going to keep dropping that. But yeah, man. Anything else to leave with the Mavericks, or we head on to the next episode?
Yeah, head on to the next one. I guess that they're a team. It'll be just interesting to see what happens in the preseason, and yeah, I think there's just a lot of guys to really, ironically, just stay away from in this team because for one reason or another, we're just not going to get the value that we want out of them. But yeah, not too much for us to argue about. I'm sure a team's just over the horizon where we can start rubbing our hands together and lock horns a little bit. But yeah, I'll take a neutral approach on this one with you. Sometimes it's nice not to fight in front of the kids.
I agree with you, man. You've listened to an Insight Fantasy Sports podcast. Cheerio.